Hi, I'm Justine.
And I'm Daryl.
And we're the Breakaway Bravehearts. And today's video is in Holmfirth, the picturesque Yorkshire spot that is perhaps best well known as the backdrop for the beloved British sitcom Last of the Summer Wine.
While the show's light-hearted charm brought Holmfirth to the public eye, there's much more to this village than just its TV fame. We'll be exploring its timeless appeal, the lasting legacy of the show, and some of the lesser-known challenges that have come with its rise in popularity. We'll also give you our social tourism review of our day in Holmfirth using our criteria: social good, economic benefit, accessibility, relationships, and sustainability.
Last of the Summer Wine has a special spot in British pop culture, thanks in part to how it taps into a sense of nostalgia. The show, which ran from 1973 to 2010, is the longest running comedy in the world. It painted a picture of rural life that connected with viewers who longed for a simpler time. Its gentle humour and quaint Yorkshire settings offered a comforting escape from the hustle and bustle of modern life.
Right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to sunny Holmfirth. My name's Colin. I'm going to take you around, show you where they did some of the filming of Last at Summer Wine. This little lane on the left was one of the first opening scenes of Summer Wine. Showed the three of them walking down there.
Oh, wow.
Now the batty's on the row of cottages in front of us, just to the right. It's one with a blue door. Now when they came filming here, they had to take all the signs down. They actually filmed off a platform. You don't normally see the first lot of steps.
The series became a beloved part of British TV, remembered for its heartwarming take on ageing and friendship. A lot of that nostalgia comes from Holmfirth itself, which felt like one of the characters in the show. It represented the heart of rural Britain and its changing identity. Today we're joining Colin on his summer wine magic tour, which he's been doing for over 30 years.
The fields at either side of us were used for doing some of the stunt work. They did that scene here where Compo and the boys were skiing downhill. They had breakfast trays tied to their feet. Just coming up here on the left is one of the many lanes that they used in this area for filming. But this one in particular you would see in nearly every episode, with the three of them walking down there. And that's where you got Howard and Marina over at Wall having a cuddle. On this road they do the scenes with Howard and Marina on the push bikes. You may recall one episode where they joined a cycling club for a bit of cover from Pearl. Well, all the cyclists came down this little track on the left and crashed in a heap of road here. But in a more recent episode it showed Howard and Marina coming out at fields on the push bikes down this track here. About this point they came across a double-decker bus and the road alongside it, but unbeknown to them, Pearl was on the top deck watching them. In the last series of Summer Wine, in one episode, the two bobbers blew the police car up. What happened was they got a chip fryer in the car. They fancied a bag of chips while they were on duty. They plugged the machine into the car's dashboard and it blew the car up. This is where it was filmed, by this bench. And of course this is a bench that you often saw Compo and them sat on, looking over the valley. Looking over to the left on that hillside, they did a lot of filming up there. They did that scene where Barry got carried away on a giant kite, and the one where the hot air balloon, shaped like a big fat lady, came up from behind the brow of the hill. Now in one episode, Auntie Wainwright bought some coffins at an auction, and the boys made a trolley out of one of them, but at some point of the day it ran away from them. Well, if you look on that hill to the left, about halfway up it, just above the trees, you can see a lane going across at an angle. That's where Howard and Marina were walking when the runaway coffin came flying down the hill and nearly ran them over.
Colin was one of the first to see the opportunity when he heard that filming was coming to Holmfirth. He decided to buy the cafe which the film company had converted from the paint store and ran it as Sid's Cafe for 20 years. Then, when he saw coaches of fans starting to turn up, wandering around looking for Nora Batty's house and Compo's ferrets, he saw another opportunity he couldn't pass up. We had expected to meet Colin in his little red bus, as it was advertised, but unfortunately, he's no longer got his little red bus. It's been retired, and he too is close to retirement.
That was the bus. Unfortunately, the insurance company won't renew.
Because the age of the bus?
Yeah. Unfortunately, after this week, I'm retiring.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Seriously?
I've done 30 years.
We felt so fortunate to be one of the last customers on Colin's tour, so we jumped in the van ready for some magic. I was a little disappointed when I quickly discovered that he doesn't actually stop at any of the locations. So all of my filming is through the window as we drive past. Also, the narration is mostly a recording so that Colin can focus on his driving. But it was still a lot of fun seeing all the locations spread out across some small villages surrounding Holmfirth and listening to Colin explain that what you see on the television isn't always what you get in real life.
We're now coming into the village of Jackson Bridge. This is where the summer wine pub is, the White Horse, Howard and Pearl's cottage and Clegg's. Now when you see the pub on telly, you don't realise there's a road in front of it. When they used to film Compo and them sat outside at the tables, they actually filmed them across the road in the car park, and it made it look like one big yard in front.
You may be wondering where Auntie Wainwright's shop is. Well, Auntie Wainwright's is 8 miles away in a village called Marsden. Now, you may be lucky enough to find Marsden, but you will be lucky to find Auntie's shop, because it is actually somebody's house, no longer a shop. So when they weren't filming there, they had to dress it up and put a false front on. I bet when you watched Summer Wine on telly, I bet you thought it was always sunny in Holmfirth. Well, I can assure you when they came filming, it nearly always rained. But it didn't stop them, because rain doesn't show up on camera unless it's absolutely throwing it down. So with those big arc lights that they brought with them, it did look sunny. Next time you watch it, just look on the floor and see how many puddles you can see. You'll be surprised.
In fact, Bill Owen, who played Compo, one of the much-loved characters in the show, isn't in fact from Yorkshire. He nearly didn't get the part because the director, Roy Clark, didn't think he could handle the accent. But Bill was dedicated, once telling an interviewer, "I had to immerse myself into the Yorkshire way of life. It wasn't just about getting the accent right, but understanding the rhythm and soul of its people."
As I said earlier, when they came filming, they would spend approximately a month each time in the area. The actors would stay in one of the hotels in Huddersfield, and the crew would stay locally, some in boarding houses and some would rent cottages. They would mix quite well with the locals. When you think about it, some of them have been coming here for a long number of years. They worked 6 days a week when they were here filming, Saturday being their only day off. Now, quite often on a Saturday afternoon, you'd have seen below him walking through Holmfirth, doing his shopping. The amusing thing about that was you could get hundreds of people walk past him and nobody recognised him, because in real life he was quite a dapper little gentleman.
Owen's connection to Holmfirth was not just one of professionalism, but also he fell in love with the place and its people. He once said, "Holmfirth is one of the most delightful places I've ever been. The people are so welcoming and the scenery is just perfect for what we're trying to achieve.
Owen's love for his work and his connection to the locals really clicked and was a big part of the show's success. So in 1999, when Bill announced that he was suffering from cancer, production on the show was paused to give him time to focus on his health. Sadly, the show could not continue filming until later in the year, as Owen passed away at the age of 85. Compo was written out of the show with great care and respect. His family honoured his wishes and buried him in the place that he had come to love so much. And then in 2017, when his dear friend and colleague Peter Sallis, who plays Clegg in the show and Wallace of Wallace and Gromit fame, passed away at the age of 96, his family respected his wishes too and buried him next to Bill.
The gravestones that surround them are a reminder that death comes to us all, and Holmfirth has had its fair share throughout its history. During our tour, Colin taught us a little about the area and its ups and downs. In the centre of town, just across the road from Sid's Cafe, is a memorial to the residents who lost their lives in just one of many floods the town has suffered from over the years. The flood of 1852 was in fact the deadliest and cruelest of all, as it could have been prevented. In the early hours of the morning, while most villagers were asleep, the recently built Bilberry Reservoir above Holmfirth collapsed, dumping 86 million gallons of water on the town and surrounding areas. There was very little chance of escape. 81 people lost their lives, including entire families. A later investigation showed that the dam was built with a lot of carelessness and poor engineering, and it found that the disaster could have been avoided. Heavy rain caused the already flawed dam to collapse, leading to a huge recovery effort and prompting major changes in dam building standards across the UK.
The town's history of bouncing back from disasters show its determination to keep growing and changing. When we visited, there was a lot of construction going on, showing its continual evolution. That spirit of perseverance, along with the stone cottages, cobbled streets and beautiful countryside, made it the perfect backdrop for Last of the Summer Wine. The show captured the area's timeless rural charm, bringing out a sense of nostalgia for a bygone era that still hits home with viewers of all ages. We even met some of the newer generation of fans, parents who have shared their love of the characters with their daughter, and they explained to us why it still connects with them today. What do you love about Last of the Summer Wine so much?
It's something I grew up with, I think.
Yeah.
It's something I grew up with.
Every character, you've got people you know that person.
Within
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Clegg's his dad. Just all over.
Yeah.
Look at some of the other things that Roy Clark did, you know, like Open All Hours, which, you know what I mean? He kind of captured like everyday folk,
regular people.
everyday people,
Yeah.
and everybody can kind of associate. There's somebody in that character that they know.
Introducing Elizabeth to it, we didn't know whether she'd like it or not. And she sat there and she just giggled, and we ended up watching about 6 episodes in a row.
That's really nice. It's a family thing that
Yeah.
crosses generations.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then when she realised that it was near home that she could go visit, we spent a whole day, and she just didn't want to go home, did you? You were walking around and going, that's where that happened, that's where that happened.
Yeah,
It's funny, and the whole thing about it, I mean, the thing about Roy Clark's comedies is that you kind of know what's coming, but it's still funny.
Yeah.
Because he sets it up so well, you go, oh, I know what's going to happen next. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? But the anticipation, but it's still just funny, it's just clean funny.
Yeah,
It's just, you know what I mean? It's not, you know, I think a lot of today's comedies just don't hit the mark.
Yeah, agree with you.
Not in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. And do you have a favourite scene or a favourite
Oh, you do
part?
that, yeah.
Yeah.
The sofa.
Yeah.
The sofa with Ashley.
I'm sat there waiting for him to pull up behind him all the time. I'm going, yeah, come on. I
Excellent.
love that.
Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
Right, well, take care.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Enjoy
Yeah.
the rest of
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Same to you.
Yeah. And with younger fans still streaming into the town, Holmfirth has seen changes too, as the 37 years it hosted the show has seen it shift from a traditional working class community to a popular tourist destination, drawing in fans from around the world. The influx of visitors gave the local economy a nice boost, helping businesses and leaving a lasting impact on the area. Locals had mixed feelings, however. While some appreciated the economic benefits, others were annoyed by the constant film crews and crowds of tourists. The extra foot traffic often caused congestion, and some beloved local landmarks turned into tourist traps. Still, most people were still very positive about it all and embraced the show and the activity that it brought to their town.
As we go round on this tour, you will notice that the roads get steeper and narrower. When the BBC came filming, there would have been about 50 crew and up to 35 vehicles, so they had to organise things properly, or else there would have been chaos on the narrow roads and in the villages. What they did, they had a base camp at strategic points where they would put the large vehicles, then shuttle the actors to the set in minibuses.
Last of the Summer Wine celebrated ageing, friendship, and the charm of rural life, offering a light-hearted look at the value of community. Meanwhile, Holmfirth, the real-life setting, faced the practical challenges of supporting an aging population while still helping its newer generations move forward. This balance of nostalgia and progress mirrors what we found in our social tourism review. Social good. We really learned a lot on Colin's tour. Actually, more than we had bargained for, because in fact, it wasn't just about the show. We learned a lot about its history too. Plus, the town itself offers much more to support summer wine fans, including a museum packed with info and memorabilia, and a couple of busy themed cafes. We couldn't resist the cream tea at the famous Sid's Cafe.
And while Colin's tour is ending, there is a free booklet available at the Information Centre, which has a map, so you can visit the locations on your own. Of course, you won't get Colin's helpful insights. However, we can help you with that. Just head on over to our Patreon page. With a monthly membership, you'll get access to all full, unedited versions of our interviews.
Colin's tour and the town's other themed attractions all offered a chance to connect with the idolised version of Holmfirth as portrayed on screen. But it also prompts us to ask, how well does it represent the real-life dynamics of the town? Honestly, we're not entirely sure that it did. I would have loved to have heard of any controversy around the filming, the show, and the ongoing impact of the tourism industry, to make sure everybody's voice is heard. And while Holmfirth looked busy while we were there, it was probably down to the construction work, to be honest with you. Colin has confirmed that since the pandemic, the tourist numbers have dropped.
Well, that's how I started this tour, because I owned a cafe and there were people coming coach loads.
Yeah.
Looking for the places. And I thought, well, I'll hire a bus and show them. But you see, we don't get coaches now since COVID.
Oh, okay.
Very few coaches.
Yeah.
You see, at one time I had three coaches running every 20 minutes.
Locals have mixed feelings about the legacy of Last of the Summer Wine and the changes it brought to their town, so perhaps the drop-off in numbers isn't entirely unwanted. While there's a deep affection for the show, locals also acknowledge that Holmfirth is more than just a filming location. It's a living, breathing community that has to balance its historical identity with modern challenges like housing, infrastructure, and supporting an aging population. Many locals are focused on finding ways to preserve the charm of Holmfirth while ensuring it remains a sustainable and vibrant place to live. We aren't aware of any volunteer opportunities in Holmfirth that would suit travellers. If anybody watching has any better information than us, please note it in the comments below.
Treasury. The filming of Last of the Summer Wine has brought significant economic benefits to Holmfirth, primarily through increased tourism. The show has drawn visitors from all over, leading to a boost of local businesses such as shops, cafes and restaurants that cater to fans of the series. Colin is a private tour operator and an independent small trader. operating within the country's tax laws and contributing to the local economy. Accessibility.
Holmfirth has really stepped up its game in accessibility, trying to make the place suitable for everybody, visitors and residents. While those steep hills are a little tricky, there are plenty of wheelchair-friendly paths, as well as ramps and accessible bathrooms. Public transport is also on board, with low-floor buses making it easy to hop on and off. The local tourism office offers accessible guides and maps, so you can plan a trip to meet your own mobility needs. Plus, local businesses have improved their websites to meet accessibility standards, making it easier for folks with visual impairments to find all the information they need. Interestingly, the subject of accessibility has a subtle link to Last of the Summer Wine. The actress Thora Hird, who plays the sharp-tongued Ida, actually used a wheelchair in real life because of her mobility issues.
Looking to the left, down in the bottom, you can see a pretty little church. This is a church where Barry and Glenda got married in the episode Uncle of the Bride. It also featured in the Millennium Special episode called Last Post and Pigeon, when Dora Bryan first came into the series. In that episode it showed Ida sat in a wheelchair, putting flowers on her mother's grave. It was the first time that they'd actually filmed her in the wheelchair, but they had been bringing her on set in one quite often, as she was quite bad on her legs. At the latter end, whenever you saw her walking or driving a car, it was actually a body double driving, because in the later episodes, she only did close-up scenes in the studios. If you thought she was really driving, she was actually sat in a car on the back of a trailer, being towed by a Land Rover.
This is kind of interesting because the show doesn't really portray the real aging process. Because Last of the Summer Wine did such a great job of hiding Thora Hird's wheelchair, some critics would say that it's a missed opportunity for better representation. Ultimately, the focus should be on creating roles that are meaningful and true to the experience of living with a disability, while also supporting the performers in a way that allows them to showcase their talents fully. Holmfirth's own progress with accessibility reflects a similar balancing act, acknowledging challenges while striving to create a welcoming environment for all visitors.
Holmfirth's reputation for supporting LGBTQ+ community is changing for the better. They're making real strides towards inclusivity. That said, Holmfirth's traditional rural vibe can sometimes present challenges, as some conservative attitudes might still linger. While there's definitely a push for more acceptance, you'll find fewer visible LGBTQ+ spaces and events compared to bigger cities.
When it comes to representation, Last of the Summer Wine raises some questions too. The show did a great job celebrating older actors, placing them at the heart of villagers' social life, instead of sidelining them. Holmfirth has a rich history of supporting its elderly, but it hasn't been completely inclusive. As we discovered when we delved into the Monumental Almhouses.
Built in 1873 and showcasing Victorian Gothic architecture with intricate stonework, these almhouses were designed to provide dignified living spaces for the elderly poor of good moral character. Personally, I found this phrase a little troubling. I mean, who got left out?
Well, there'd be no chance if you'd had yourself a substance abuse or criminal record behind you. And then there were the folks from less socially accepted backgrounds, like those who had been divorced, especially if the divorce was under controversial circumstances, or worked in a profession considered less respectable, like certain types of manual labour or trades. It was all about fitting a specific social mould, even if someone was in a desperate need of support.
The characters in Last of the Summer Wine definitely fit that specific social mould, one that mirrored traditional British values and stereotypes. The show portrayed elderly men as lovable rascals who spend their days reminiscing and engaging in light-hearted mischief. The series largely stuck to a predominantly white, working-class setting, reflecting the reality of its target audience. As the series progressed, it did start to acknowledge shifts in British society, embracing changes in diversity and multiculturalism. To stay relevant and connect with wider audiences, new characters were introduced, each bringing their own perspectives. Still, the overall social makeup of the show didn't change significantly. Many long-term fans felt that the new characters lacked the intimacy and charm of the original trio, Compo, Clegg and Foggy. In the end, the introduction of new characters and storylines reflected the changing face of England and highlighted the balancing act between holding on to these cherished good old days and adapting to a constantly changing world.
Relationships. We really enjoyed our time in Holmfirth, and it was especially because of the wonderful welcoming people that we met there. When you combine all the summer wine attractions in the town with the numerous blue badge plaques dotting the streets, there is a wealth of information to delve into. We visited quite a few of the attractions and received good service everywhere we went. The price of Colin's tour was reasonable for what we got, as was the museum and cafe. Sustainability.
Holmfirth is making great strides in sustainability, preparing themselves for eco-conscious travellers. Electric vehicle charging points are popping up too, making it easier for tourists to travel green. Holmfirth is also dedicated to preserving its natural beauty. There are community-led initiatives like tree planting and rewilding projects to boost biodiversity and protect local ecosystems. However, we have to admit that on the day we were there, we could see there was still a lot of work to be done. But we applaud the efforts that are being made, and we can't deny the town is the perfect destination for those that want to explore on foot or by bike, with the scenic walkways and the Pennine Cycleway. So all up, what's our final verdict on our last of the summer wine day in Holmfirth?
Well, we thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a delightful journey through the show's film locations. I have always enjoyed the show, and I really learned a lot about the series and its impact on the town, though I was a bit disappointed that we didn't stop at the sites for more than just a quick drive-by. It's hard to really connect with a place when you're just passing through. Thankfully, the free map that we got from the info centre gave us a chance to revisit the locations.
Agreed. It made us able to explore more of the town, and I was really impressed at the local history and charm that was on offer. Next, we're off to another town that inspired a creative mind. Although this town's influence seems to have been quite the reverse. Rather than a place of fun and nostalgia, Whitby's darkness, mystery, and gloom inspired one of my favourite books of all time, Bram Stoker's Dracula. You won't hear me say this often, but I was really glad the weather was a bit drizzly and gloomy on the day we visited. It was the perfect atmosphere to imagine vampires and gothic intrigue. So if you're brave enough to join us, make sure you hit subscribe and click the notification bell, because we welcome you to our channel. Enter freely and of your own will.
May the sun never set on your travels.